Hi, this is Andrew Twidwell, owner of ABT Plumbing, Electric, Heat and Air. Once again with the show You Got This. It's a show of DIY do's and don'ts. I'm sitting here in our Auburn office with Mr. Mike Dale. He's head of our electrical department. Say hi, Mike.
Good morning.
Good morning. And then I've got Rosalie in LA, our producer, and she's taking care of everything that's, on the technical side. And I'm actually getting a text from our COO. He's at the door, but yeah, too late, Scott. Anyway, it's been a crazy morning. So we're here. We're here to record a show, and it's that time of year when everything's nuts with the holidays right around the corner, family. It's just kind of a crazy time. Weather's changing. I know we've got rain. We're recording this on Wednesday, and it's supposed to rain today, and by Friday it's supposed to be sunny but really cold. So we might have some frozen pipes, but it's that time of year. So we've actually got enough content. We're just going to go roll right into this, aren't we? Let's just roll right into this show. The reason why people are coming here to listen to us. So Rosie put together this as a comprehensive year-end home maintenance checklist to help ensure that your home is in good condition as you enter into the new year. So we've got a couple things. So number one, for indoor maintenance, heating systems. So we talk about this ad nauseum about replacing your furnace filter or cleaning. If you've got a washable filter or if you've got a disposable filter, wash or replace that filter. You should be inspecting that thing depending on where it's located. If it's up high and you don't have pets, you could probably go once a quarter looking at it. If it's at ground level or on the floor and you've got pets, I would go no longer than 30 days and check it. You want to pull it out, take a look at it. If you can't see through it, or if it looks really dirty, replace it. The purpose of that thing is to make sure that dust doesn't get into the system. It's not there to clean the air so much to give you healthier air. It's really there just to make sure that the system doesn't get dirty and then cause all kinds of problems because there's things in there that will collect dust and become inefficient. The other thing that you should really do is schedule a professional inspection and service. If you haven't already done that, you can reach us at 530-230-9092. That number again, 530-230-9092. And we have a special going right now for $49. We'll come out and do a thorough inspection of your system, safety inspection, make sure it's working. We'll give you any recommendations on what should be done to take care of it. And some of them are free. Some of them may require us to do a little something, but you take your car in to get an oil change every 3,000 to 7,000 miles. If you're not doing this for your heating and air system, which can kill you, just like your car, you should really take advantage of these things. At least have them checked on it. You're supposed to have it checked. Manufacturers recommend at least yearly. And I also recommend at least yearly because you want to make sure that thing's not spewing out carbon monoxide. That kind of I'm going to segue right into checking on that and give that to Mike.
Well, Andrew, main thing comes to mind with me is to check your carbon monoxide detectors. During the winter, obviously, we're going to be spending more time in the home, and it's a good idea to make sure that your carbon monoxide detectors are working, particularly if you're going to use plug-in room heaters to heat a specific area of the house. It's a good idea to make sure carbon monoxide detectors are working, and also maybe take a look at the receptacles that you're plugging those high amperage devices into. We've run into a lot of the older homes where the receptacles are getting older, they're getting worn out, and they can be a cause of exceptional heating and then a
fire.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. What you're talking about, as the outlet becomes older, the springs in there become weaker, and you don't have as good of contact on the plug, right? So less contact means, we size wire. The bigger the wire, the more amps it can handle. Same thing goes with our outlets. Our outlets are designed to go from 15 to 20 amps, right? And if you've got a small contact point, you're trying to get a lot of amperage through that very small contact point, and it'll heat up, and it has the potential for causing a fire. And we've actually seen outlets, we've got pictures of outlets that literally melted out because of said outlets being worn out and trying to draw so many amps through it. So, and then, I mean, what's an outlet? What's the longevity of an outlet? How long should an electrical system or electrical outlet actually last us?
Typically, the industry suggests 10 years.
Yeah.
10-year lifespan on any receptacle.
And that's crazy. So we're literally 10 years, guys. So, I mean, think back, like, how long have you owned your home? If you've owned your home longer than 10 years, most of us have. When was that wiring installed? When was that outlet installed? You're probably talking 30, 40, 50. My daughter just rented a new house, and I looked at the electrical system, this old tube and knob and bus fuses, and I'm like, oh my God, it kind of freaks me out. I'm going through and they got three-prong outlets. I'm like, oh geez, they don't have a ground on this system, so they've got wires jumping, all kinds of scary stuff. So I'm being really cautious with her. I'm like, don't put any high amp things into these outlets. They can't handle it. But things are designed to last a certain amount of time. So you should really have these things literally replaced. And if you're plugging in and unplugging things like a kitchen outlet where you're probably not leaving things plugged in all the time, or a bathroom outlet where you're plugging in your hairdryer and unplugging it, that's wearing those outlets out. So they can't caught. There's a potential risk of it. And I know, like, a hairdryer is 1,500 watts, right? That's 15 amps. So you have the potential for it to blow out. So
also your smoke detectors.
Yeah.
If you've got older smoke detectors that are, say, more than 5 years old, the backup battery in them needs to be checked probably at least once a year and replaced.
Right.
I mean, we've all had the chirping in the middle of the night and you can't find the smoke detector.
When you say backup battery, what are you talking about?
If it's not interconnected, if all of your smoke detectors are not wired together,
yeah,
you have just a battery operated smoke detector. Those batteries, the little 9-volt batteries, should be replaced if for no other reason. You don't have to chase around in the middle of the night when one's chirping.
Should do that yearly. I mean, most
Yeah.
people suggest replacing them on New Year's Day just to make sure that you don't have those issues. And go buy a box of 9-volt batteries. And this is literally something that can save your life. So, it's worth the $10 in batteries or whatever. But we've also talked about on this show that they've got smoke detectors now and carbon monoxide detectors, combinations that have lithium batteries in them that'll last 10 years. So you can, for the price of a packet of batteries, well, actually that'd be a pretty big packet of batteries, but you can get those 10-year ones, for the combination ones, for like $30-$40, right? They're not terribly expensive, and that's something you don't have to deal with. So this is a DIY show. So if you've got one of those older smoke detectors or carbon monoxide detectors, it's not a bad idea to just rip that thing out if it's over 5 years old and put a new one in that's going to last you 10 years and you don't have to deal with it again, So that's a really easy thing. And then what we're talking about interconnected is, in multifamily homes, it's required by law that you have to have interconnected smoke detectors. So they have a communication line. So if one goes off, they all go off. And they also have battery backups, because in the event of a power outage, you want to make sure that thing is actually working. So, we get those calls where my wired smoke detector is chirping. Why is that? Well, there's a battery in there in the event of a power outage, and those should be replaced on a yearly basis as well.
Right.
So, yeah. So those are a couple things with carbon monoxide detectors, smoke detectors. And you brought up a point that, do you need a carbon monoxide detector when your whole house is electrical? Is there potential for a carbon monoxide being produced by an electrical furnace or electrical heater? I didn't even.
No, but if let's say that your room heater is malfunctioning,
yeah,
and that element heats up,
they could form carbon monoxide.
Correct.
Got it.
Correct.
Yeah. Hopefully the smoke detector picks that up before, because probably if you're heating up that much, you probably have some smoke coming off that thing. Speaking of smoke, fireplaces. Clean the fireplace and chimney at least annually. And we're kind of already into the season, so if you do heat your home with a fireplace, hopefully you've already done that and or hired somebody to do that. I know, when we first moved up here 20 years ago, I swept my own chimney, and then later on, I realized it was worth the $200 to call somebody out that actually knew what they were doing for it. And then I didn't have to climb up onto the roof. And I've got too many horror stories. I've known too many people that have fallen off roofs, especially working in the industry that I'm working in. But I've also had friends that are my age in their 50s that have fallen off roofs and almost died. One of my friends almost died because he fell 2 stories, and he was really lucky that he didn't die. He was just working on his gutters. So, I've gotten to the point now at this point in my life that I don't, I used to skateboard, and I don't ride a skateboard anymore because I know if I fall, I'm probably going to break my clavicle or something worse, right? So, yeah. And I try not to climb on roofs if I don't have to, and it's worth the $200 because not my homeowners, but my medical deduction is higher than $200. So it's even worth it just to show up to the hospital, right?
Yeah.
So it's worth the $200 to have your chimney swept. Also, they will check for cracked heat exchangers or damaged chimneys that, as a layperson, if you're not doing that on a daily basis, you may not know what to look for. And you may actually have a cracked firebox and you won't even notice it. And there's a potential for carbon monoxide to be escaping from that. And, I know when I had a wood burning stove in our house, that thing ran 24/7 all the time. I mean, when winter came, we just stoked that fire every day. That thing never went out. So if we have a cracked firebox, then all of a sudden there's a potential for carbon monoxide. Anytime you burn something, you have a potential for carbon monoxide. Anytime you burn any kind of fuel, whether it's wood, natural gas, or propane, there is that potential. I'm gonna let you take this one. Windows and doors.
Check for drafts, replace weather stripping as necessary. You'll definitely find the leaking windows in the middle of the winter. You might want to have that checked at the beginning of before winter and get it replaced. You're just wasting money trying to heat cold air coming in from the outside.
Right. Or heat the outside. That's what you're really doing. Because coldness is the absence of heat. And so it's thermodynamics. Cold is always trying to pull heat towards it. So you're literally trying to heat the outside, and that's never going to happen, right? And then since we are a DIY show, there are some easy things you can do. There's stick-on weather stripping, just, with double-sided sticky tape. That foam insulation, I've used that stuff. The foam weather stripping, it works fine. If you got a huge gap, that foam stuff works great. You get gets a little bit more tricky when the screw-on type ones where you actually need a drill or a hand or a screwdriver to actually screw and mount the stuff on the outside of your door, so you've got a nice tight seal. But weather stripping is really critical. The thing that I've had homes where when the sun's beating on it, I can actually see the sunlight coming through. If you can see the sunlight coming through your windows or doors, you got a problem. And during the wintertime, you can actually go around and just wet your finger and, lick it or put on a sponge and go around the perimeter of your windows and doors. If you feel a draft coming in, start up your bathroom fan or your kitchen fan, it'll start pulling air in, and you can go around all those exterior openings and see if you've got any drafts there. By simply wetting your fingers, you'll feel a real minor draft. Then you got to address that. And something that's relatively easy to do. If you're listening to this show, you're probably a DIYer, so you can probably do that yourself. Plumbing. So it is wintertime, so we're going to talk a little bit about insulating pipes. If you haven't seen our video that our friends over at the Ubinet filmed about 2 weeks ago, they put it up on Ubinet. We've got a whole video on that. It was really great to work with them. But insulating the pipes. If you want more information, go to ubinet.com and you can find that video there. But insulating exterior pipes is a really good idea. The thing I kind of talked about there, though, is we get these freezes up here in Nevada County, probably about every 10 years. But it's been quite a while since I've seen one, and I've been in business here for 20 years, and I've only really seen 3 times. So it seems to be less and less as we go in with climate change. But when it does freeze, it's typically, you got to have a really hard freeze where it's like, in the 20s, 28, 25 for a couple of days before we start seeing pipes explode. But even a minor freeze, if you don't have any insulation around the pipes, if it's a new install, like if you put a hose bib in or put a new pipe on the outside of the house, this summer, there is a potential for that to freeze, and you want to make sure that you have it insulated. Insulation, all it does is kind of hold the cold on the outside. If you're not running water through it, it's still the potential, even if you've got it insulated, there's still the potential for it to get cold enough to freeze. So another thing you can do is, if you do see on the weather that we're going to have a really cold snap, like in the 20s for multiple days, at night, it's not a bad idea to just crack open a hose bib or a faucet inside on the cold side and just let it kind of dribble for a little bit. By water moving, it doesn't allow the ice crystals to form. Kind of like, if you walk by a stream or a river, it takes a lot for a river or stream to freeze, because that moving water stops the forming of those ice crystals from turning into ice. So just a small little trickle will actually make sure that you won't freeze. It doesn't have to be a real big stream of water. Just drips any little bit. And then again, the amount of money you're gonna spend on water is a lot cheaper than the amount of money you're gonna spend on a plumber coming and fixing your pipes. Because when it happens here, we're all busy, because we don't man up for a thing that happens every decade, right? So it's triage. We just go through and fix the bleeders and move on to the next, and it can be pretty expensive. So yeah, make sure you insulate your pipes. Check for leaks on the outside. Make sure you don't have any faucets are dripping. If you do have outside faucets, if you've got any valves that can isolate those, now is the time to turn those things off and drain the line, which is ideally what you want to do. If you don't have a valve, not a bad idea to install one for DIYers. You can actually just install a valve on. If you've got a circuit of outside outlets or outside hose bibs and outside irrigation that is run on its own line, put a valve on that thing and turn it off and just let it go through the winter, because you really probably don't need water outside. If you do need that occasional water to wash your car or something like that, you know where to turn it on. And that, if it's PVC, that's a relatively easy thing to do. They even make shark bite valves now, so it's relatively easy for the homeowner. You don't even have to sweat the pipe. You don't have to solder the pipe. You can just do a shark bite, as long as it's exposed. I'm not crazy about shark bite fittings. I don't like burying those things. But if it's exposed, you can see if there's any leaks. You can take care of it later. Mike, why don't you take attic?
Well, obviously coming into wintertime, all sorts of critters are looking for warmth, from insects to rodents.
Raccoons and bears. We get bears that walk in, they crawl into places in Nevada County.
So inspect, make sure that go around the house, make sure that all of your vents leading under the house are screened. Same thing with your attic. Just take a quick look. Make sure you can keep all the critters out. It's a lot more difficult getting them out of the attic than keeping them out.
Yeah, and just remember, we talk about this often. A mouse only needs a hole the size of a dime. A rat needs a hole the size of a quarter. A bat needs the hole the size of about a dime as well. So it doesn't take much. I mean, you're talking about 3/8 of an inch, yeah, and a mouse can get in. So, and then obviously even smaller for insects. Yeah. So,
then also check your insulation. Just take a look if it's getting thin anywhere inside the attic. I mean, if you do it yourself, you can go ahead and get from several of the big box stores insulation to blow in by yourself.
Yeah.
Just rent the machine from them and then blow in additional insulation throughout the attic.
Yeah, and remember, insulation works by loft. It works by trapping air within its mat, right? So fiberglass itself isn't necessarily the insulation. It's the air that's trapped between the fibers that actually insulate us. And same with the blown in stuff. And gravity is constantly trying to force that stuff down and trying to compress it. And then if you've got people that have worked up there, we tend to compress it too. So take a look around, and sometimes it's a matter of, taking a rake and taking something and kind of lofting it back up, kind of lifting it back up, because it's the air that's trapped between the molecules or whatever that makes it so that it holds, that it actually insulates. And I'm getting a text from our producer right now, so we're high tech. Getting a text from LA that we're talking to right now. So yeah, we're running out of time. So let's talk about this biggie. So this is a big one. We really wanted to talk about Zinsco panels. So if you can talk a little bit about Zinsco panels and what they are, what they look for, and some of the dangers that happen that can occur.
In the electrical trade, Zinsco panels are actually referred to as arc welders as well as service panels.
Arc is not a good thing.
No,
it's lightning bolts is what arc is.
With the Zinsco panels, the breakers actually either don't trip, which is the worst case scenario, which means you've got too much current running to areas and the wires and the busing of the Zinsco, and creating heat, which burns the insulation, which causes direct shorts, which leads to fires. This has been exposed, if you will, about Zinsco panels for the last 15 years.
Yeah.
If you have a Zinsco panel, you may want to give ABT a call. And I guess Andrew's decided to have a free inspection from ABT to come out if you have a Zinsco panel. And what we'll be looking for is loose breakers inside the cabinet. Take a look at the conductors, be sure there is no hardening of the insulation or stripping back of the insulation.
What are some of the characteristics of a Zinsco panel that people should be looking for, other than just it saying Zinsco? Zinsco is Zinsco, by the way. It starts with a Z. It's the only panel that's going to start with the Z.
It might be also called Sylvania.
Yeah.
Actually, Sylvania bought out Zinsco some time ago. So either name brand on that panel. They're distinctive looking breakers. Typically, they're thinner than a typical breaker, and the coloration is bright red, green,
orange,
and blue. They're elongated and not as thick as a typical breaker.
So that, a layperson's not going to notice the thickness of a breaker, but they're the only ones that have these colors on their breakers. Everybody else is black and has the amperage on it. They're the only ones that actually use colors to delineate between the different breakers. So if you've got a multicolored kind of panel, definitely have us come out and take a look at it. We're not charging anything. It's kind of our Christmas thing for everybody, because we're really, we're in the business to try to help people and try to save lives. And Zinsco, there were some major lawsuits. That money's been tapped. I mean, there's no longer any money there for Zinsco panels, but there's still a lot of them out there, and a lot of them in Nevada County, because it was something that we used in the 70s, late 60s, 70s, and into the early 80s as well, if I'm not mistaken. So there's a lot of development that happened up here in Nevada County during that period of time. So they're out there. There are a lot of them out there. So yeah, through the month of December, mention this radio show, mention Mike Dale's name, mention Zinsco panels. We're willing to come out and only for listeners on this show, for a $0 inspection on these things, because it's one of those things that really, really, it concerns me. We've literally seen houses burn down because of this. We've worked on neighbors' houses that called us out because their neighbor's house burnt. And you can reach us at 530-230-9092. The number again, 530-230-9092. You can find us on the web at abtplumbing.com. Like us on Facebook. We've got social media galore now. TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. Find us all over the place. We've also got some other crazy deals through the month of December. We've got a $49 whole house inspection for electrical for everybody. We've got a $49 AC tune-up, AC furnace inspection. We got a $49 plumbing safety inspection and water heater flush. If you haven't had your water heater flush this year, give us a call. And we also have a crazy $97 deal on any residential drain cleaning with accessible clean out. So for $97, we'll come out and clear your drain. If we can't clear it, we don't charge you anything. So give us a call, 530-230-9092, 230-9092. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you guys next week. Bye.